going on, folks? Today's project guide here again. I had a lot of guys come on and comment and question what I thought of ECM Link and how everything was going with it after I got the install done, and I figured I would talk a bit about that today, give you guys a little bit of info from my experiences with it, and kind of let you guys know how I figured out everything that I figured out so far, how to get the car to idle correctly, the adjustments that I've had to make to keep everything cruising correctly, and once I got into wide open throttle, how I started to tune for that. And I'm still very new at it. I'm still in the learning stages. I spent a lot of time reading, watched a lot of videos, spent a ton of time on the forum after I bought it, and the forums are a huge help, along with there's a couple of videos, a couple of guys, some channels. Scott Laird has one. It's great if you guys want some info. But so far, the stuff that I figured out, I've been running fine. I haven't had any crazy issues, and if you can take a look over here, we built a downpipe in the last video, so we go get that little blue sticker right there, and we got it. So I wanted to share a little bit of information about New York State inspections, if any of this will help one of you guys out there getting your inspection done. So we're gonna hop in the car. I think this is gonna be a 3-part little mini series we're going to do on the channel, and as I learn more and experience more and figure out how to work a couple more things out, I'm going to share it all with you guys. So first off, we're going to hop in the car and pretend that we just plugged in ECM Link for the first time ourselves, and we have a running driving car, and we're going to go in and say we changed our fuel injectors. So we're going to go in the car and we're going to figure out how exactly to set up your idle and the steps that I went through to try to, narrow some of these parameters down and set up my wideband and a couple other things. So let's hop in the car, get connected, and we will go from there. So we are inside of the car. First things first, we got connected. Now that we're connected, I wanted to explain to you how my New York State inspection went. For a little backstory, last year on my way to get my car inspected, if you guys watched the video last year where I built my own 3-inch exhaust and we got into the cylinder head and replaced the valve stem seals, you'll remember that the car was smoking a lot. And this video of me replacing the seals actually took place about a week after I got my inspection last year. Basically what happened was I was on my way to go get it done. I was about 2 blocks away from the shop, and I got a check engine light. And that's, the worst thing you could ever get on your way to an inspection is a check engine light. It turned out that the smoke going through the exhaust from the leaking seals had fouled out my rear O2 sensor, so I had to pull over, plug my little OBD2 dongle in, and clear the codes. And then I'm like, crap, well now I'm not going to be able to get my inspection done because all of my readiness monitors are going to be reset, and I'm going to have to go drive it around, blah, blah, blah. Well, I took it in, and they inspected it, no problem. So no check engine lights, I guess, mean you're good to go. So this year, I was all in a panic, thinking I had to have all my readiness monitors set up. We did the catalytic converter install. I put a resistor box in up front to block out the heater circuit for the O2 sensor that was throwing a code, and those were my main issues. So I had all my readiness monitors, for the most part, cleared. And then in a panic on my way there, I don't know why I did it, but I got into ECU config live, and I started to disable all the checks. So I turned off all the readiness monitors so no check engine lights would pop on. They took it in, they plugged into it, did all their normal checks. 15 minutes later, gave me a new sticker, and I was on my way. So apparently, if you have the engine lights all turned off on your 98 GSX, you are good to go for New York State inspection. So that made me extremely happy. So now that we're here in the car, first things first, I wanted to show you guys those check engine lights. First thing, we're going to open up the ECU config live setting, which is this one right here. That one you can have the car running for, and you can jump in and you can make changes and save to your ECU while the car is on. ECU direct access, however, you have to have the car shut off. You can't make any of the changes with the car on, or you risk hurting things. You could actually fry your own ECU. You could corrupt the data in it, and then you're stuck with a bricked ECU. So keep in mind that any of the stuff that you guys do messing around with your own ECM Link and making your own changes is on you. Read about it first. Get some education. Don't take every single word I say to heart. I may be wrong on a couple of these things, but from my experience so far, I just wanted to share with you guys the things that I learned and how I got my car started and running and idling and driving to and from work every single day, and I've yet to have any crazy issues. I did have a couple of knot counts that were pretty high, and I had to change the fuel a few times, and I'll explain that all as we go here. So down here, if you go down into the DTCs tab, you can actually uncheck all of these little controls right here. You can see you have one for EVAP. Well, we put an EGR block plate on there, so there's no EGR or EVAP system anymore. Cat efficiency, I was really worried about, but the visual inspection passed. Fuel trims, if you have something way out of whack and it gets stuck in open loop forever, it'll kick a check engine light, I guess. Closed loop, if it won't go into closed loop, it'll kick one. If your idle's messed up, something about automatic transmission, we don't really care because we're a manual. Cylinder misfire, it can check all these things. And if you look down here, I have one that's complete right now. The other ones are still going through their cycle. But anyways, this is the stuff that I unchecked everything. Enabled DTCs, I unchecked everything, and I went in and got my inspection fine. So, all right, so one of the first things that I had an issue with that I really wanted to tell you guys about was with my wideband. When I first set my wideband up, the gauge would read one number, and I made a couple of logs in the beginning, and my log number down here where it says AEM wideband, right now it's fixed, but at that time, the numbers were way off. The gauge would say 14 point something, and the gauge would be at 12. It was way off. Or not the gauge, but the log. So in order to fix the log, to log the actual data that I was seeing displayed on my gauge, I had to go through and mess around with a bunch of the presets. And if you go over into your ECM Link live settings and you go to your ECU inputs tab, you can select between a whole mess of different things, a bunch of different sensors, a bunch of different wideband presets that they have in here. There's the LC1 wideband. The AEM stuff has a few different ones in it. I tried AEM wideband, wideband gauge R1, and none of those lined up. And I ended up picking the user-defined linear wideband and saving that and going over to my log screen, and you right-click to add something. You go down here and displayed values, and all this stuff on the left-hand side is stuff that you can add to your display. It's everything being logged. And I found my user-defined linear wideband, and I clicked on it. I clicked Add to Display, and boom, it was over here. And as you can see, it says AEM wideband here, which is that right there. I also had to add my MAF raw data, which there's raw values right here. You can go through these and pick one, and you click OK, and then you hit Add to Display, and it pops up. And I have MAF raw down here in the bottom left. Now, to fix my wideband, I actually found a couple good write-ups on it on the forums. You have to right-click on this wideband. You have to go to AEM wideband preferences, and you have to set it up on the right-hand side here. So over here, we put in our parameters that were given to us in the paperwork with this wideband. And I don't know if you can see it that well, but if you look at this AEM Series X wideband, it says that to find 14.7, which isn't listed, it's 14.44 and 1503, that you have to use either 3 volts for 14.44 or 3.25 volts, and that's 15.03. Well, we want 14.7, not 14.4 or 15.0. So I picked a voltage in between 3.0 and 3.25, and that ended up being 3.15 volts. And that just happened to be the information I plugged in right here. And max lambda is 1 lambda is 14.7. So this linear wideband, I set all this stuff up, and it actually worked. So now when I'm driving down the road, my gauge says the same number that's displayed right here. And that saves in my logs, and I am happy with that, so I can't complain. So that was the first thing that I had to fix, and honestly, it was kind of troublesome in the beginning, but once I started digging into it, I figured it out pretty quickly. A little bit of extra reading, and we have that all sorted. Now, the other thing I had to mess around with was just trying to learn how to tune things, and first thing was calibrating my MAF. And if you go over into your ECM Link settings you have a MAF comp section. And here I have my ECM Link GM MAF cable plugged into my 3-inch GM MAF, so I had to come in here and change from stock to the 3-inch sensor. I selected that and I hit save. Then I started the car up and it idled, and I created a log and I drove it around town. Now, if you start the car and it doesn't idle, you might be way out of whack here in these sliders. So your idle point is actually right around 400 to 600 hertz with this GM sensor. So you might have to mess around with these sliders some. So these sliders, if you raise them up, you're adding fuel. If you drag them down, you're lowering fuel. So if I go like that, I'm adding a bunch of fuel to that 400 hertz point. Or if I drag it down, I'm taking fuel away. And it tells you how much right over here. So if I make an adjustment in the 400 hertz range, it'll tell me how much of adjustment I've made. So 300 hertz is at 2.3%, 400 is at 0, and so on. So this data corresponds with your MAF raw data. And down here, you see MAF raw. So MAF raw is how much airflow the sensor is picking up and showing to your ECU. So what you do is you use your MAF raw data and your combined fuel trim to make your adjustments to this MAF comp table. And in order to do that, you have to make a little steady cruise log, and that's what I did. At least I know some people say to put it in 3rd gear and go from 30 miles an hour all the way to the top of the RPM band with your foot to the floor. I was not sure that my settings were correct enough to do that, and I didn't want to get a bunch of knock and hurt anything, so I just went around for a little drive. And I checked my logs, and as I went through the log, each one of the hertz points, if you go through under MAF comp, you can see there's a whole list of hertz points right here, and it goes all the way down to 3600 hertz. So you come over here to your log and you look down here at any point in your log. So we'll click on the screen right here. At this point, we're at 544 hertz, and our combined fuel trim, which we want to stay at 0, is right around 0. So that's great. If we go further forward in the log, let's see, we'll find one where we're driving down the road with a little bit of speed. Let's see. Get a good spot to show you guys. I don't want to be going 0 miles an hour. All right, so we're going 30 miles an hour here. We're at 1500 hertz, and at 1500 hertz, it shows that our ECU is taking out 4.7% of the fuel that's in our tune. So what we do is we find 1500 hertz over here, which is this dot right here, and it said, what did it say we want? It said we're 4.7% rich. It's taking out 4.7%. So we come over here, you click that little dot, and you take away 4%. Then you go through your log till you get to 1600 hertz. And we're gonna move on to the next point. And that's why I see why that makes sense, because then you can go through, if you put your foot to the floor in 3rd gear and you can get a nice clean log with no knock, then you can see all those hertz points and you can come through and make all your adjustments. So at each one of the points on the plot, right here for instance, we're at 1000 hertz. It says to take away 7.6% fuel. So we come back over here to 1000 hertz, and let me click on that, and we're going to take away what it wants us to take away, 7%. And you do that for each one of these points, and eventually you'll end up with a nice smoothed out graph. And you don't want to have like crazy changes here. You don't want to have a nice smooth line and then all of a sudden this one goes way down low or way up high, and then the next one is a continuation of that smooth curve. That's just going to be wonky. So I had to go through all of those different hertz points and make adjustments to my MAF comp, and then once I was comfortable with it, I saved all those settings and I drove around and I did some more aggressive driving and some more logs and kept messing with it from there. So that was my initial big thing that I figured out. Another really cool feature that helps you out setting up those MAF comp sliders, I wanted to mention this to you. If you're going around and you're just driving around town and you get about a half an hour, a good login, you can actually come in here and you can right click on your data log and you can click MAF comp adjust combined fuel trim, and you click that and it will automatically plot points on this graph where the ECU thinks you should be at. And I guess sometimes they can be a little wonky or out of whack, but the more driving you do, the more data points you'll get. And if you want to use those, you in the bottom side here, you can click use template and it will set those, and you just smooth them out after that. Like this right here, we wouldn't want to be all weird looking, so we would probably make a couple more adjustments to the higher RPMs, or the higher hertz rather, and just kind of smooth all this stuff out and make it a little bit cleaner. And that's just one of the cool things that you can do over here with this program. I'm still learning this, but this is to tune in my idle, my cruise state, and these higher numbers, these higher data points on the graph are actually your open loop, like wide open throttle stuff. So that stuff you really got to pay attention to. You know, when you're in your log, you want to make sure that you're not getting any knock and your fuel ratio looks good. You're not going crazy lean or crazy rich, and you can make small adjustments or tweaks there. That was pretty fun to mess around with. One of the other things that I really enjoy is if you come over here on the left hand side, there's dash, and if you go into the dash tab, you can actually change a couple of things. Now it says boost gauge. If you click on this, you can make the stock boost gauge do a couple of weird things. It will tick out the ISC position, I believe. It'll show you if you get knock counts, it'll make the little needle bounce up and down when you get knocked. You can set it to high coolant, your battery voltage. Like if you change maybe the background to like a battery display or something behind your the bezel in the dash, you can change this around and mess with some stuff. I left mine as stock. I know it's not the best boost gauge, but whatever. The thing that I was really excited about is the check engine light. It says knock CEL, and anytime that I get, well, you can pick whatever you want. I chose 3. Anytime I get 3 counts of knock, the check engine light will start to flash and it'll say, hey, you know, get your foot out of the throttle, you're getting a lot of knock. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So you can set that to whatever. If you want to set it to 5 counts, you want to set it to 1 count, whatever, you can set it there, and that way you can actually see on your dashboard when you're really hitting it hard in the boost if you're getting knock counts, and I think that's fantastic. I know with my 1G, I had a little scan master that sat on top of my steering column, and that displayed knocks, and that was awesome. But I know 2Gs, it's completely different, so you can't really do that. Now here's some other things I wanted to give you guys a quick tour of. I haven't had to mess with them too much, but say you're out racing and you're having some fun, and you notice that your car's running a little lean or something at a certain point in your log, and you want to make a quick change on the fly. You can come over here and you can do that in the fuel tab, where it's all RPM based. So if at 4,000 RPMs your car falls on its face because it's got so much fuel dumping into it, it kind of works like the MAF comp sliders do. You can pull fuel away or you can add fuel. So pulling it down, you're taking it away, pulling it up, you're adding it. Now when you make these changes here, they actually end up translating into your direct access table. So if you change at 4,000 RPMs, you add some fuel, we go back into direct access. At 4,000 RPMs, you're changing every single cell you're adding more fuel to or taking more fuel away. Something else that I wanted to show you guys how to do. I drive a 98 GSX, and something that I've read is the fuel and timing tables for a EVO 8 are actually a little bit better than the stock 2G timing tables and fuel tables. So I want to change those today, and I figured I'd give you guys a quick tutorial on how to do that. I just learned how to do this and I thought this was awesome, and I actually did this a couple of days ago, but I'll show you how to do it now, and it worked out great for me. Results may vary, but it's all in the direct access. So what we're going to be doing is changing our open loop max minimum octane tables and our timing max and minimum octane tables. And you can see right here, this is the EVO one now. And to change these, it's actually pretty simple. If you go on to the internet, you can go to ECM Tuning, has this ecmtuning.com/wiki/EVO8 V3 settings. This is the page you want to go to. Now, I downloaded the V3 file right here, EVO8 2003 stock, and when you download that, where are we at? You can download that to your computer in a safe spot that you can find it. I put mine right here, and all I have to do is double click it. It shows up. I open the file, and it opens an ECM link. Now this is the download. You can see up on the left hand side, it shows that you downloaded the maximum octane, minimum octane, timing min, timing max. It's pretty cool. So if you come over here into your live direct access to change these values, all you have to do is highlight everything, and you right click on it and you hit copy table. Then you come back over to your direct access and you go to open loop max octane table, the same one we just grabbed, and you right click and you click paste table, and boom, there it is. I did that for the open loop max minimum, the timing max, and the timing minimum, and I saved that to the ECU. And when you do this, you're changing all these maps and it flashes it to the ECU, and you'll actually see your check engine light flash a couple of times. So I've already done mine. I just figured I'd show you guys how to do that, and it actually worked out pretty well. I didn't see anything crazy happen with it. I had to make a couple of small adjustments with my MAF comp sliders, and I just showed you guys how I did that. A couple of points needed to have a little bit more fuel added, and obviously this map's not really perfect yet. I still got some messing around to do. I haven't really gone out and done a whole lot of wide open throttle pulls yet to, change these upper numbers, but nonetheless, I changed that, flashed those on, and that's all set up. So here's a couple other things I wanted to show you guys. This right here, you can do a launch limit. You can set up a rev limiter launch limit, and this is basically like two-step to some degree. You can set your RPM launch limit. I set mine to 3,500 RPMs, and then you can come down here into the ALS knock tab, and you can set up anti-lag operation and no lift to shift. No lift to shift we set up a couple videos back, where we installed the wire going from the clutch switch to the cruise control ECU, and we wired that into the ECU itself, and we now have no lift to shift. So no lift to shift is where you can put your foot all the way down in the throttle and shift from gear to gear to gear without taking your foot off the gas when you push the clutch in, and it is so cool. I love doing it. I've only done it a few times so far, but it's definitely awesome. So right here you can set up your anti-lag operation. You can mess around and put in your clutch cut speed. You can set up your hold timing at, and this is taking and putting your timing after top dead center, so it's essentially retarding the timing, and it does this so that anti-lag works to spool up a big turbo. So if you want to use anti-lag, I don't need to use it. I have a big 16, but it's not a big turbo, it's a smaller turbo. So what it does is it retards your timing and dumps a bunch of fuel in the engine, and then ignites it, and it makes the combustion process happen basically out the exhaust stroke, and shoots a bunch of fireballs and flaming gasoline through your exhaust and spools your turbo really fast. Quick, rapid explosion. But it's a pretty cool feature. It works for guys that are racing or guys that are street racing, to spool your turbo up, get some boost going at the line, and you can launch like a madman. I can set it up and show you guys what it sounds like. I have the two-step saved and set up. I figured I'd show you guys that. Two-step allows you to build some boost while you're sitting, and you don't have to turn on anti-lag and hurt anything. I don't know if I would hurt anything in my car, so I'm not going to mess with it, but I will show you guys what two-step sounds like. We're going to hop over to a nice quiet place where we're not going to piss off a bunch of people. We're going to give it a whirl. Okay, so now that we've got this thing sitting over here someplace where hopefully I'm not going to piss off the whole world, we've got our settings over here. We've got, let's see, we set our RPM limit and our RPM slash TPS limit. We set that up. The rev limit is set, and we've come over to two-step, and we've set our limit up for two-step, and this will actually help you get a couple pounds of boost built up before you drop the clutch. And it's a little safer to do it this way than taking your car all the way up to the friggin' red line and punching it. At least you can set a lower RPM to put a little bit less strain on things and still get some boost to get out of the hole faster. So let's see, we've got this set up now. What you're gonna do, we're gonna open up the data log again. I've got it set to around 3,200 RPMs, and you don't want to just floor it to it. You want to kind of roll into it, and it's set up to work with I believe it's 35 or 45% throttle. I have it set up for one of the two. So once the ECU sees that the throttle's down to a certain point, it's going to engage the two-step at that set RPM. So I thought this was pretty awesome. So what you do, put her in gear, put your foot down on the clutch, line everything up, and you're just going to work right into it. That was the start of it. I'm sure you can see that bouncing all over the place. So I'm going to stick you guys outside, see if I can get a couple pounds of boost to build up on this thing. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Still learning. Alright, so I'm going to stick you guys right here for a second. Let me try this out. So now we're going to try this one more time. Put you a little closer. Alright boys, so with that set up on two-step, I've got fuel enriched to I think 6% now. I have throttle set to 40%, and I also have my RPM limit at 3,500 RPMs and the anti-lag or two-step set to 3,200 RPMs. So it actually built about 7 PSI of boost just messing around with that. And I mean, you can make it go higher if you want, and the AFRs go all crazy on the gauge, but it actually works pretty cool. I really enjoy this little setting in this program. It makes your car sound like a freaking monster when you're sitting there putting it up, giving it a little bit of boost. You can hear the blow-off valve kicking off, but you obviously don't want to sit there on the rev limiter forever and turn into one of those crazy guys that sits at the stoplights and does it. I actually had a kid yesterday when I was driving home with a Subaru WRX pull up next to me. I was in the right lane to turn, and he was in the straight lane, and he sat there revving his car as hard as he could, trying to get my attention, and I just didn't look over at him, and he did it for about 2 minutes. Don't do that. You'll blow your stuff up. You'll hurt things. But anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed a little bit of insight on, this is going to be part one, I guess, some of the stuff that I've learned about ECM Link. There's a plethora of new things in there that I haven't messed with. I mean, you can do so much with that program. Anytime you get a new part, you can maximize your setup by messing around with your tune. You can get in and build yourself a custom table, a timing table, change your fuel tables if you want. I mean, you can do so much cool stuff with it, and it's been the best data logger for me so far. I have thoroughly been impressed by this program, and I'm just getting my feet wet. And if you guys know of something that I did wrong or something that I should change, obviously mine's not perfect yet, but it gets me to and from work every day and allows me to have a little bit of fun on the streets. feel free to drop a comment down below. I'm always open for suggestions and constructive criticism, and I'd rather know the better way that you know, if you know it. But anyway, it's been fun messing around with this. Let's do two-step one more time just to show you guys. This is I love it. Can't get enough of it. Can't beat it. No knock. But hey, if you guys have enjoyed this video and it's given you any information, like I said before, if you have a better way of doing something, drop a comment down below. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. We always like hearing from you guys. I love the comments. I love reading all the information that you guys throw my way and the suggestions. They're always great. We'll be having a part 2 to this very, very soon. One of the next episodes, we're going to start logging and monitoring our boost electronically using a map sensor. So make sure you keep an eye out for that one. But until next time, you guys have a great night, and we will see you again very, very soon. Take care.